Shelley Bosh, welcome to Empower Network TV. Very excited you're here.
Thank you so much. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm in a really good place. I'm excited to be talking to you today about breakthroughs and upgrades. Going to be hearing it's been a while since you've been on here in an interview and you've been through a lot. So I'm going to kind of turn the mic over to you. We're going to talk about what you've been through, what's been going on, what you're learning, what you're facing, whatever else you're gonna. So where's Shelley Bosh at right now? Where do we find her?
Well, you find me on the west coast of Canada on a beautiful place called Vancouver, Ireland, and I have been chipping away here at my why, which has actually shifted recently. So that was part of the impetus for talking about upgrades. I think we all our paths are not straight, and so it's really good to kind of revisit here, and it is fun to kind of come back and see after the first interview, what was it, like early May or something, the progress that's happened just being in the network here. So I want to thank you for creating the network, because it's like a catalyst for. So I've heard so many people say how much their lives have already changed just being inside the network, but also inside the Academy of Coaches. So that's been really fun. So I joined, I joined, like, I think it was May 8th that I joined. And I was at a point in my life where I'd just gone through a major life transition. I had been, as a special needs mom, caring for a high needs guy and his sister. I had been way into the red in terms of caregiving. I also had a mom and facility, a team of workers, and then a full-time job, actually supporting military veterans. So that interview with Chase was kind of neat to watch, and basically got way too far into the red. And then various things happened. The universe kind of cleared the decks and said, "Yeah, stop that, and learn how to." Self-care, self-love, and focus on yourself. And long story short, I was doing that, and I bumped into the Empower Network, joined, and I was loving it, and just was really, it was helping me fulfill my why of helping special needs families by using the affiliate program actually associated with being an influencer and instructor in the academy in the network. So I was going away there, and was lucky enough, well, not lucky enough, I worked enough that I earned quite a bit of money through the affiliate program. But what happened was, all of a sudden, everything shifted.
$21,000 part-time in 2 months, to be precise. Over 21 grand in 2 months, very part-time to be precise. Just want to say that.
Well, yeah, and it was like basically mind-blowing money that I had never made that much at once, frankly. So again, thank you for creating the mechanism for that to occur. But I had been looking for a mechanism like that, and I found the Empower Network, and I started to use it like almost like a giant bake sale for these special needs parents. And I had told myself, okay, I'm not going to get back into that caregiver burnout mode. I am going to, I'll get to the point where I have filled my own bucket first, because, put your own oxygen mask on first was the lesson. And I started doing that. But what happened was I came up against this thing where I had told myself, I'm not going to even open the hands-on, boots on ground support for exhausted parents like me until I make at least 50 grand a month. I'm like, okay, the potential's here. But then it started to happen. I was like, whoa. And then a bunch of people showed up, exactly who I needed to do the things that I wanted to do. And I've learned since that, this isn't sort of a natural part or, a common thing that happens with startups. But I thought, oh, well, the money's here and the people's here. Maybe this is just being made to happen quicker. So I jumped in way too fast, and but also learned a lot. So just in this last 2 months alone, it's been like this huge brainstorming session where the opportunity arose. I had a whole bunch of things land that I could sort out and figure out the gems of, okay, I need this, I don't need this, I need this, I don't need this. I worked out all sorts of, you know, business pieces. My social purpose enterprise is a marketing agency, and then the online marketing agency supports the care company, because the care company was great for the parents, great for the workers, great for the kids, but wasn't making money. So I'm balancing those two. That was sort of the basic premise. So I thought, well, closing the care company for a little bit, replenish and find out who I am and what I want to do, and you know, fill my bucket, and then we'll reopen the care company. And yeah, and so I jumped in. I got all this support and incredible people in the academy that also just really helped along. Like, being in the academy has been not just great from a financial perspective, but also from a learning perspective about how you can, you know, there was different people. There's all sorts of beautiful people in there who have all sorts of incredible offers that are going to be featured on the network. But I really like learned a lot and integrated during this crazy time. So it's been like this, like, intense period of 2 months just being in the network, and being able to kind of sort out what's really important to me, what's where my priorities are. But the biggest breakthrough, I think, is that I came up against, you know, everybody has trauma. You can get through a lot of things. There's all sorts of incredible stories about surviving and learning from our life experiences and converting those into superpowers. But what I was surprised by, and the biggest learning, was the not the fear, not the traumas that happen and what you learn out of them, but then pivoting to, okay, well, what will happen if I succeed? The fear of, you know, success, and what it means, what means for my identity if I actually shift out of that crisis based place. And it's like you're on a battlefield with other soldiers, all going through, with other special needs parents, for example, going through these very difficult, challenging situations that, frankly, some people aren't even aware of that occur, but you're in your own personal Vietnam. And you're not, I don't want to say commiserating, but you're relating strongly, because it's a really tough situation sometimes. And then but to come out of that into ease, and to the sense of, oh, I might not have to worry about that anymore. You almost feel like a bit of a traitor, or you have like survivor's guilt, or you also you know, you have to kind of watch, because some people aren't necessarily as happy for you. So you fear, like, what am I, I'm going to lose my peer group, I'm going to lose my identity, I'm going to lose, you know, I'm not
Okay,
going to
so
be able to.
let's go there. Let's park for a second. So
Yeah,
shame and guilt over the fact that you made a bunch of money, that
yeah,
others aren't making a bunch of money, and you made a bunch of money. So shame and
yeah,
guilt over that, misappropriated shame and guilt. So what did that send you down? Because you made all this money, and now
yeah.
it's like, well, others in my position aren't making this money. So where did that bring you? Where'd you
Well,
go with that?
so then it triggered very old patterns that usually we, you know, we all have these patterns from childhood, and my pattern was people pleasing and avoiding conflict. My mom recently passed, and at the end of March, and the reason why she was in facility was because she'd had enough, she'd done enough to her body with the things, you know, the substances that she needed to use to cope with her own situation in her own life, that she was in a facility. And so I, you know, I was feeling that I couldn't care for her because I had this extra load at home, and so she passed, and this was sort of the first moment since then. You know, I had taken care of her when I was very young, because when you're very young and growing up with someone who's in that situation, if you realize that if you sense that your parent isn't protecting you necessarily, the operating to their full capacity, you sense, oh, there's a danger that I'm not taking care of here, and it flips you into taking over responsibility when it's not your job. It takes you into, you know, conflict resolution to stay safe. It takes you into people pleasing to achieve love. And all of those things are just developmental stages that naturally happen. And so what happened was when I shifted back into, this is the first moment where, you know, there was a sort of shame, guilt, threat. And I flipped right back into those patterns of people pleasing and making sure everybody else was okay and taking responsibility for things that weren't mine. And so I thought, oh, okay. I just realized that what happened was, yeah, I thought, oh, well, I can just jump right back in, and I shouldn't have all this money for myself anyway. I'm going to go spend it and pull this team together, and we're going to start serving special needs parents. And when it was too early from a business perspective, it might not, it's the right idea, just the wrong time. It just wasn't, you know, ready yet. And it's still my purpose and my why and my driver. But I realized I ran myself into the ground instantly because I had all of these fear and shame and guilt of success come up, and I had to just it was visceral. It wasn't even conscious. It's sort of like, okay, I gotta take care of other people.
Got to get rid of your
So
money because you're not allowed to
I
hang
get
on to
rid
the
of
money.
it. Get rid of it. I shouldn't, at the sense of I'm not worthy. I shouldn't have this, you know, like this needs to be distributed. And that might be true in the sense, a general sense, but it was to the point where it was like, I can understand now how, you know, when someone wins the lotto, their money's gone the next day because their identity is set. It's like a thermostat. I learned from other coaches. Your identity is set like a thermostat, and there's sort of like a window of tolerance. And if you go too high, you got to cool it down. If you go too low, you got to bring it up. And my identity was set to automatically like get serve away from myself and not fill my own bucket to first, and that I was not allowed that. So this process of, you know, sort of a quick rise and a quick fall just has really been like such a teachable moment that I never would have experienced
So
if
what
I
are you
had.
learning? Okay, so what is it showing you? Because there's what it's showing you, right? We go through something, we become aware of it. Doesn't mean we learn the flippant lesson. It just means
Right.
we're cognitively aware of it. So what are you becoming aware of? What are you now implementing that's different? What are
Yeah.
you going to do next time? That's going to be like, can you walk us through that process of your conscious
Yeah.
awareness? Because you're becoming conscious of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and thank you, because it's actually a process that I'm lucky that my son's self-injurious and violent behavior has taught me to deal with over crisis, as well as working with military veterans and that sort of thing. And I'm going to be talking about it in the book that I'm writing, On the Other Side of Fear, that's going to come out sometime later this year. But basically, I go through a process of, okay, you're in the moment of the crisis, and you're realizing, oh crap, yeah, this is happening. And you have to basically, I had early childhood skills in that situation where there was quite extreme situations of like, okay, so I automatically kind of go centered and control. You're going through the crisis, and you almost have like an out of body dissociation. It's a psychological, you know, basically protective mechanism where you're in crisis, kind of like, oh, okay. And so you're just almost like having an out of body experience, watching all of this going on, and you're managing the crisis. So you're in crisis, and either you're responding emotionally or you're able to kind of like, you know, deal with the immediate crisis. So crisis, documentation, and then self-care is sort of my main three sets. So crisis, okay, that happened. Documentation is like, we step back and, okay, what did just happen? And you kind of like dissect it a bit. You reiterate the timeline, and take a look at it, not from an emotional perspective, but from, okay, this happened, this happened, this happened. And this is sort of the stage where I've just come out of, I'm into the self-care stage right now, but I've just come out, and it's like, okay, that mindfulness piece of I am not my thoughts, I am not my emotions, I am not my body. I am the thinker of my thoughts. I am the feeler of my emotions, and I am the mover of my body. So you pull yourself out and you go, okay, what was it that did that? And it's been a bit like the process of taking a fish out of the water and showing it the water that it's swimming in. You kind of like become mindful of, you start looking, and it's a neurological process where your reticular activating system, it's like when you play punch buggy, you start looking for punch buggies and you see them everywhere. So I started looking for, where am I pouring out? Where are the whole leaks in my boat? What am I doing just habitually, or as coping mechanisms, or just automatically? Like, I'm going to come off automatic pilot here, and I'm going to start manually again and feel, when am I doing that? Oh, I'm not allowed. I got to help. I got to help so and so. I got to do this. I feel guilty about that. I should feel shame about this. If I don't help here, then not, a good person. I don't deserve something if I don't do this, that, and the next thing. And oh my gosh, it was like Swiss cheese. Like, there was like holes everywhere. And I just had been patching them in my mind with excuses. Okay, well, I have to do that because, and it was just like, I have to do that because otherwise I'm not, contributing, or I'm not this. And it took that shakeup of going right back to, okay, what is my identity here? What is my why? How am I going about things? And you're either running away from pain or towards pleasure, right? And I don't want to
What was the
experience
wake up
pain.
call? What was the wake up call? Was there multiple, or what made you hit the ground?
When I had spent all the money on all of the other people and my hydro bill was due and I couldn't pay it. Like,
That'll wake you up.
yeah, it's like, okay, I might be able to charge my phone soon. So I'm like, okay, why would I do that? And I realized, yeah, that's, like, pretty extreme with if you're willing to overdo that much, right, for other people. That's it's a disproportionate reaction to success, right?
Well, you're trying to put on other people's face masks on the plane, the proverbial metaphor, but yours wasn't on. So it's wonderful that you want to help others. So what stopped you from putting your own on? I remember, and you've already brought it up, so we can talk about it. Your goal was initially, you said, I will not start my the program until I've had three $50,000 months.
Yeah.
So three $50,000 months, then I'll start. So
yeah,
what made you cave? I'm fascinated by the psychology of that. What made you cave?
well, it was the combination of the money, how quickly it came, and I'm like, okay, well, if that's the trajectory, I'm on my way to my goal. And the serendipity of the people landing, because I hadn't even done a hiring call, and I had everybody that I needed for all the concepts. But it was also sort of like, I knew that I would have to, in a startup, like, you kind of have to throw a little bit of the spaghetti at the wall. I mean, you're going through that right now with the network, kind of in the beta testing stage. You kind of do have to throw a little bit of spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks and what works or not. But then it was just sort of also just the pure excitement and joy of, being able to do for other people. I really do enjoy that. But it was where, and so I think it wasn't necessarily, the universe unfolds as it should, but it really just like critically pointed out that the Achilles heel that I was facing was that if my boat will sink if I don't take care of the proper underpinnings, right? So yeah, so it was kind of both a wake up call and a learning lesson, and something that from a business perspective, in a sense, needed to happen because I found all of the right tools, but it would not have been the way that I would recommend people go about it. Don't do that. Go back. Dead end. Don't go this way.
Okay, so how is this shifting your perspective, your feet? What is different for you now then?
Completely changed the way I structured my internal resources. I took a look critically at what was actually going to move the needle or not. And I also, the biggest change the first change was like, oh yeah, I guess I really do have to take care of myself. And what it did was force me to look at that piece that I think is so critical for everybody to look at is, what fear and what limiting capacity, what are your fears? And what are your limiting stories and your limiting beliefs that you've picked up either ambiently or from people telling it to you or from experiences? Like, how can you overcome those, and how can you change that narrative so that you can get past the fear? Because like everybody has fears, but just because you could step outside. I was watching Master Stephen Coe talk about how you can step outside and a satellite could land on your head. There's no, just because what was the Chinese proverb? He said something about just because you're afraid to choke doesn't mean you don't eat, right? Like you have to go forward anyway, right? And so yeah, it's just been the fear of putting myself first, and whether someone will think I'm being selfish, or whether I'm like the perceptions, or that fear of being rejected by the community that I was in before. Like if you and I were talking about if you have a lot of weight to lose, and you've been, or you're in addictions. That's another example. Yeah,
Survivor guilt, survivor
survival
guilt.
guilt. You've got a community that your thermostat is set to be with and you're comfortable with. What happens if you leave that community? Are they gonna reject you? Are they gonna like egg you, or like ridicule you, or even worse, like attack you for being a traitor? So like just making the changes. And what, I'm here on the planet Earth to Earth School to learn my soul's lesson, to bring my gifts and apply my superpowers, and to to learn. And so if this is part of my learning, and I can't not do this, right? So I basically started, think to myself like do a check, like, and in worst case, sometimes I set a cell phone timer, but it's like, okay, is what I'm doing right now what I want? You have to be led by your own callings, your own desires, your own physical feelings. And there's literally a feeling physically in my chest that I get when I am helping. So every time now I find, and I'm not saying you shouldn't help, and I will still help, but it's the incongruency to your own purpose that's the difference. So when I'm helping someone, is this lighting me up, or is this because out of guilt and shame, right? And so there's that distinction. And as I've managed a moment by moment to kind of like, okay, just feel into it. Is this a yes, or is this a like, is this a joy and something that I'm going to be excited and lit up by because it inspires me? Or is this something that I feel I have to do because I'm afraid and I'm ashamed and I'm worried and I'm fearful? So when you follow that that bliss, as they say, follow your bliss, and you're still on your purpose, and you're also rehoning your actions. Okay, does this move the needle forward? Is this critical? Is this mission critical? In a sense, like I cut everything out that wasn't going to, for example, if my point here was to get money to go turn around and be able to build a machine that would help special needs parents, and I need the money, what am I doing, yakking about this or that? What's going to turn into money? What am I doing, helping so-and-so with such and such? What's going to turn into the money? So like refocusing in on the things that are actually going to move the needle. And I completely restructured, my day. I completely restructured how I filled my calendar. I completely restructured how I evaluate, okay, is this a priority in this moment, or can that wait till later? It all kind of like crystallized together around the base of not having any fear, aligning with your purpose, and then just having the confidence and the overcoming the fear to go ahead and take a meaningful step. Because thinking and planning is all great and nice, but you don't move towards, you don't build confidence, and you don't move towards your end goals and creating the legacy and the beautiful vision that you have in your mind without actually acting. And so, did I do this thing? Holding yourself personally accountable. I did it again. I said I was going to do X in this block of time, and like, I got distracted, or I squirreled, or
Let's
I
pause here for a sec. So let's,
yeah.
I'm gonna, if it's okay, I want to bring it down to this. It's simply,
Yep.
you're talking about bliss. Let's liken it to oxygen. So if you, by helping someone else with their oxygen mask, you're taking your own off. If you're
Mhm.
taking your own oxygen mask off for more than, how long can you hold your breath, Shelley? A minute? 2 minutes? Like
Right.
if you're taking it off more than a minute or 2 minutes, unless you're an all-star, you can hold it for 5 minutes. It's like, what the hell are you doing? Unless your
Right.
calling is to literally sacrifice your life and give someone else your oxygen mask. If that's your calling, so be it. Go hard, go balls to the walls. But really, if that's your bliss is your oxygen, is what lights you up, it's what fuels you. So how long then do you think, what is the ratio? Do you think there's a ratio question of, should you be taking your oxygen mask off at all? If you should, what does that look like? Are you actually teaching people to put their oxygen mask on for them, or are you doing it for them and they're not
Yeah.
required? Okay.
Yeah, that's an enabler mindset, right? And like for me, that was quite natural. Having supported my mother's alcoholism, it's just like literally a textbook thing. But no, you need to be doing. You need to be mindful of how those patterns show up, and keep your own oxygen mask on in order to be able to help them. And so that was totally a knee-jerk mistake that I'd made on, oh, I finally got oxygen, because we'd been struggling for a long time. Finally got oxygen. It's like, oh, okay, I got a breath, and I took it off and tried to put it on somebody else. But really, I should have kept it on. Right.
I'll just get, yeah, volunteer too, because my failure or my mistake I've been learning this last month is getting into the tech side when I got skilled people that know how to build the tech side. And so I got distracted a bit getting into the tech side instead of staying in my zone of genius, which
Mhm.
is sales, marketing, leading the charge, sales, marketing, leading the charge, sales, marketing, leading the charge, and then holding up people, giving them a platform and letting them shine, because I need to
Mhm.
let people shine. And I got bogged down part of the time this last month, which has stopped now, by getting into the tech, because I was like, well, I want to get the tech side up, but it's taking longer
Right.
than I wanted. And, I was forcing things. So I totally relate to this in a way, because there's your zone of genius. Your zone of genius, you are so good at sales. It's kind of ridiculous. You're so good at being an influential person and seeing and understanding the pieces and how they all fit together. And you're out of the box. So people that see you that have been in the system or partially in the system, you don't make sense to them because you're so out of the box. It's ridiculous, but you're extremely productive and effective for those that can under and receive from you. So it's cool to see you coming back to. And I'm glad I didn't have to say anything to you. I'm glad you came to this on your own, because I felt sad when I was seeing that you abandoned what you're genius at. And what I thought, in my opinion, I thought maybe I'm totally wrong here, but I'm like, why is Shelley going and doing this when she's amazing at this? And maybe some people have thought that of me too. So I just want to come clean and say, I totally understand what you're saying, Shelley. I shit the bed my own way, and coming back to center, coming back to what is your zone of genius? Because that's where the breakthroughs happen. That's where the upgrades happen. It's not outside
Yep.
of that.
No, absolutely. And I think that the network, it's gonna be really cool to see. Like, I love this documentary that you've decided to do, because and the process that you built into that, about checking in every month with, a couple hundred people about how the network is influencing their lives, and how the network is also, acting as a starting point, or as a platform that you can use to advance their own gifts into the world. Because I feel like it's sort of like this crucible in which also all of the crap is burned away. right? Because you come into this network and you're like, yeah, I want to, do this thing. And basically it kind of just like, it's like a rock tumbler. It polishes you, and it lets you kind of find out really what the nuggets are of what you want to offer and shine, and then you can do that. But this documentary that you're doing is going to let us also track that over time. And I'm really interested to see, like in the monthly check-ins, how my own story, evolves, how other people's stories evolve, and how that all mixes together for the origin story of the network. So like, can you talk a little bit more about what's happening with that? And because I'm really looking forward to using it as a personal accountability tool about, okay, I wanted to get this done in July. I wanted to get this done in August. Where am I with the network? So that's how I'm going to be using it.
I can in about a minute, but that if for 1 minute, but we got to bounce. I got to get on Karen Katelar's classroom recap in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically the documentary is going to be a fun way of documenting the process of a person's basically roughly 1 year journey through Empower Network TV, and they can participate in different ways. It'll be announced next week, but it's going to be fun because as you said, there's already, I know of dozens of people whose lives coming in here the last 6 months have radically started doing this. And the only explanation is because they're in this group with other people that, I don't know, there's some symbiotic stuff going on, and people are doing this. They're just spiraling up,
Great
not
breakthroughs
down.
and upgrades.
Yeah. So it's going to capture that over the course of the next year, and sure, anyone's free to participate. So we'll drop information on that next week. And I'm thrilled you're a part of that. I'm thrilled you're part of the Academy. I'm thankful that you're willing to be vulnerable. And when I asked you to do this after you told me the story, I was first of all so happy to hear that you are awakened to your zone of genius you stay in primarily, and that you've had this epiphany and that you're willing to share it. I thought this is so inspirational for others that might be struggling because they've got off center and they need to come back to being plumb and being what is the through line for them. So I'm so thankful you've done this.
Don't be afraid of messing up. Don't be afraid of growing. This is what we're here for, and it's very empowering to share. So thank you for creating the forum to do that, and I hope you have fun with Karen because she's awesome.
It's going to be a blast. Well, thanks, Shelley. If you've been watching, listening to Empower Network TV, Shelley Bosh, Coach Shelley Bosh, coming to you live. And this has been a lot of fun. So Shelley, have a wonderful day. We'll chat soon. We got lots of talk about coming up. So thanks, everyone. Thanks, Shelley.